George, tell us what's going to happen at Stamford Bridge on Saturday. Chelsea host Liverpool.
Yeah, that's one of the key games that everybody's looking forward to, the opening of the new English Premier League season. I think both sides have a lot to sort out, and I don't think they are quite ready for the start of the season. They're still in huge talks, hoping to get some more players to beef up what they've got. So Liverpool, for instance, have got two key midfielders in McAllister and Szoboszlai, who have joined, from RB Leipzig and of course from Brighton, but they still need some, enforcements. And so you've heard a lot of talk about Liverpool trying to get in Southampton's Romeo Lavia. That's a key central defensive midfielder they're hoping to get into the squad to ensure that they have somebody who can man things out there. Because if you have watched the Liverpool preseason friendlies, they have scored a lot of goals, but they have conceded as well. So there's one of the issues that they are looking to solve. When you come on the Chelsea side, these are a bunch of youngsters, basically, because the coach, Mauricio Pochettino, has constantly said that he needs some experience. And it explains why Chelsea is still chasing Mochi Caicedo, the young man from Brighton. They're looking to get him, but it's tough for Chelsea to get him because, Brighton are holding out for £100 million, and Chelsea are currently trying to make sure that they can get to sign him. So they are both sides who didn't have a very good who were not too good last season, obviously. And they are not quite done with the transfer business. I don't think they have settled squads at the moment. So it's going to be a very, very interesting game in that one. And I think it's open for anyone really, because Chelsea didn't make the top four last season. It was really, really poor. Liverpool didn't make the top four as well. They're in the Europa League. And so here we go. Mauricio Pochettino will want to work with a bounce that comes with a new manager, but definitely it's going to be a 50-50 game in my view.
What then do you think is going to happen by the 10th, match day 10, looking at Arsenal, Manchester City, Manchester United, and perhaps Newcastle, the top four from last season? What do you anticipate by match day 10?
So I take Manchester City, for instance. Manchester City won the treble last season, but they have lost some key players who helped them to win the treble. Ike Gundogan, one of the great guys who did so well in midfield for them. And you've seen that in preseason, Pep Guardiola, and of course in this transfer window, Pep Guardiola is trying to get a midfield that can mirror what he had, last season. So the likes of Chelsea's Kovacic have joined Manchester City, and even that is not enough for him. He's still, at the moment, pursuing the West Ham midfielder Lucas Paqueta to ensure that he's got something out there in the midfield. Up front and in defense is basically the same, even though just today there's been talk about a possible swap between Kyle Walker and Benjamin Pavard, from Bayern Munich. But clearly, Pep Guardiola has got something to work with. I don't think that the beginning of the season is going to be so quick and so fiery as we have seen Manchester City. It's going to be a bit more like last season, where they lose some games, they draw some games, but they'll be right in there to challenge. And I think as the season wears on, you begin to see the real Manchester City, because I think that they're going to be really tough to take a trophy away from them. When you come to Arsenal, it's interesting. And they have lost Xhaka, one of the key midfielders in the whole run that they had last season. But they have been able to bolster their midfield. They've got the likes of Kai Havertz, coming to join them. They got Timber from Ajax to help them back in defense. So I think that Arsenal have built on from what they had before. Declan Rice from West Ham United joining them as well. They have built on from what they had before. The question is this going to be enough to take it away from Manchester City? I think they will be slightly distracted with the Champions League that they are going to be playing as well this season. That will be the little concern there. But I think that Arsenal are going to put up a good challenge. Let's see them. I think they're probably going to be challenging in and around, Manchester City. If you look at Manchester United, it's interesting. Most of the fans spoke about De Gea being the problem. De Gea is gone. Onana is in, the man from Inter Milan. But they still have some work to do in terms of the layers that they've got for their defense. I think Manchester United, and it's not surprising that they are trying to trade off the likes of Maguire. I just saw Fred as well on his way to Turkey. because they need to get some players out, get some money, and bolster their defense. Because the likes of Varane and Martinez from last season have shown us that they cannot be fit all season. And where Manchester United had a few questions to answer was when the defenders got injured and it was difficult for them to play at the same level. So Manchester United have a decent squad as well. They haven't come together as they would have expected it, but I think that Ten Hag has a good thing that he's really working on at the moment. He's been able to bolster the attack as well with a striker of an unknown quantity, paid a lot of money, could be huge risk. We'll see how he deals with the challenge. But of course, having Onana with the kind of system that he wants will open things up in terms of the way he's able to handle the ball on his feet. But don't forget, Onana also comes with his own problems with playing so high up there. And that's another one to look at. So clearly, when you look at it, Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United, Arsenal. For Chelsea, it's really, really tough to say Chelsea's going to be in the top four. There's a long way to go. And Spurs are having to deal with settling whether Harry Kane is going to be with them or he's going to move to Bayern Munich, who have come in with a very, very mouth-watering, deal, which has been agreed. So we'll see. Spurs season will start from whether Harry Kane is going to stay or he will go. I think we'll get to know that latest by tomorrow.
Okay, George, I would like to come back to Africa and Ghana specifically. We've lost a lot of Ghanaians in the Premier League this season. We will not be seeing Daniel Amate, also Salisu, and also Kamal Dean. We've lost all of them. And we've not seen influx of a lot of Africans signing into the Premier League this season. Will you attribute that to the AFCON that will be played in January that is making teams not try to sign African players? And also, would you say the quality of players that we are producing as Ghanaians is also reducing, and that's why we are losing a lot of players in the Premier League, and we are not getting enough there?
Yeah, I'll say that it's down to the quality of players. I'm so sure about that. It's down to the quality of players. If I take you back to 2006, I mean, when we had great Black Stars team, we had players who were playing Europe, who were actively involved. They were virtually carrying their teams on. So whether it was Michael Essien or whether it was Sule Muntari, whether it was Samoa Jan, whether it was Stephen Appiah, anywhere around the world, when you mention their names, they were huge figures in their clubs. At the moment, it's not quite the same. Thomas Partey is doing well for Arsenal. We can see that clearly. Jordan Ayew is doing his bit for Crystal Palace. But aside that, really, it's very difficult to say if Tariq Lamptey, for instance, is carrying Brighton. I'm not sure. You could say that Kamaldeen Sulemana showed a bit of glimpses there when he was playing with Southampton. It wasn't enough to keep them in the Premier League. Mohamed Salisu did well. Very, very well, of course, with Southampton, but he had issues with having to renew his contract, and they kept him out of play. That's why he still got to move away from the Premier League. I think it's down to quality, because once you're producing quality players is there. The Black Stars have not covered themselves in glory in the last few competitions that they've played. And it's telling at the moment for Ghana, it's not only about the Black Stars, right from under 17 to under 20 to under 23. We are totally failing everywhere. And it is even going to affect the value of players when they move. I think that we've got a big issue with the kind of quality that we're producing at the moment. And that's a fact.
All right. What about the issue about the AFCON in January? Has it also affected the signing of African players in Europe generally? Because the president for Marseille was complaining and was asking for a break in January for the AFCON before it is resumed, because he has a lot of African players in his team. Do you think that has also affected the signing of African players generally?
It's something that I don't think so, because the Europeans know exactly what they are going in for when they have African players. I mean, and remember that the AFCON period, I understand that yet it takes away momentum in the period in which the players are gone to play. But really, if you think about it, take a player like Victor Osimhen. The African players are able to give you exactly what you want in those 3 weeks, unless they are going to win the competitions. Most of the time, they come back. I understand the issue about injuries and all, but really, we play. There's the UEFA Nations League that's ongoing at the moment with Europe. The UEFA Nation League games are playing when we're even supposed to be playing friendlies. I mean, if you look around the world, there are other competitions that are ongoing. So at the moment, I think that clubs will go for an African player if they think he's good enough and they want him. They will not really think too much about the AFCON. I understand that sometimes there are backups and everything, but basically, I think that by now, everybody's aware that the AFCON has come to stay and we're not moving our dates. And once you're a good player, they'll go for you. So there's still some African players, in contention, even though it's not as high as we saw before. I think it's really down to what they are offering on the pitch and whether the clubs feel that this is good for them and whether they want to go for them. Basically, not too much of the AFCON, being an issue at this point, in my view.
Is Mohamed Kudus joining the Premier League for Brighton?
That's a tough one at the moment. Real tough one. There have been a lot of talks, so much in terms of the reports that have been coming in. Nothing concrete at the moment, and so we just have to wait. I know it's frustrating for a lot of Ghanaians because when it comes to Mohamed Kudus, almost in every transfer window you hear that he's about to make a move to the English Premier League, and it's not happening. But I think that it's important that both parties, whichever club, especially with Brighton hugely involved in this, have to be comfortable with the key terms. Everything must be okay for each of the sides. If you're unable to come to an agreement, the player never moves. And so at the moment, as we speak, Mohamed Kudus is still in there, and there could be a possible move, but at the moment, nothing yet solid. And, Paul, there's been a lot of discussion about whether it's time for Mohamed Kudus to move to the English Premier League, or, he has to stay at Ajax for some more time, to bid his time more or less before he comes to the English Premier League. I think that if the conditions are right for him, he can definitely move in there. But if you're looking at it from the kind of pressure that you get in the Premier League, you sometimes feel that if the player is able to give 2 or 3 consistent seasons, then it's really good for the person to come in there. But it's some players who can even just do 1 season elsewhere and come and have the character to fight the pressure that the English Premier League offers. So it's really up there, and we're hoping that at some point, Mohamed Kudus makes it into the English Premier League.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you very much. So when we want tickets for the game, are you going to get some for us? Tickets to go and watch the game.
Tickets are very, very tough to come by. Which of the games are you talking about, Paul? Which game do you want to watch?
The games at Old Trafford.
Oh, you want to watch the Old Trafford game?
Yeah.
Well, that's one, Paul. You have to get a lot of money, and even when you get the money, it's not clear. Unless I'm able to talk to a season ticket holder to get you his ticket, that's the only way you probably can get into it. Or you have to pay some huge bucks,
well,
like
you are George Addo
some
Jr.
£120 or something outside the stadium to work.
You are
right?
George Addo Jr., so you can do it.
But you are Paul. So Paul, when you come, we'll make a deal. I mean, in the end, you end up buying one for me. We'll sit in a player's box. How about that? Or corporate box.
I'll be there, George. I'll let you know when I'm coming. Thank you.
Yes.
And good night.
Let me know when.